Shema Israel. Hope you enjoy this next study. My name's Dee. This is my wife, Millie.
So if you like what you see, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you wish to reach out to us, you can email us at devotedtoyah@gmail.com.
All right, we're in Exodus chapter 12. I think we're going to be cross-referencing verse 2, really. But here's verse 1 and 2. Yahuwah spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be to you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." So we went over a lot of that. What is the true New Year's versus, Yahuwah's New Year versus the world's New Year. But we'll go to some cross-references now. Exodus chapter 13, verse 4. It says, "On this day you are going out in the month of Abib." So it calls the month of Abib. Pause. All right, so that's one cross reference. Exodus chapter 23, verse 15. It says, "You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty." Exodus 34:18. "The feast of unleavened bread you shall keep 7 days. You shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, in the appointed time of the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came out of Egypt." Leviticus 23, verse 5 says, "On the 14th day of the first month at twilight is Yahuwah's Passover." Numbers 28:16. On the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of Yahuwah. Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. "Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover to Yahuwah your God. For in the month of Abib, Yahuwah your God brought you out of Egypt by night." All right, verse 3 of Exodus 12 says, "Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household." Cross references for that. Exodus 12:6. "And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." John 12:1 says, "Then Yahusha 6 days before the Passover came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead." John 12:12. "The next day much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Yahusha was coming to Jerusalem." So just some scriptures of Yahusha around the Passover. The part where it says take a lamb in Exodus 12, cross references Genesis 4:4. We get some prophetic shadowings of this. Genesis 4:4. "And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahuwah had respect unto Abel and to his offering." So Cain and Abel, Cain killed his brother Abel. He was jealous of him because Yahuwah accepted his offering and did not accept Cain's offering. Cain's was from the ground. Abel's was from the animal. So it was from the firstlings of the flock. So it's kind of like a prophetic picture of a Passover lamb or some type of sacrifice of the flock. Genesis 22:8. "And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together." That's the story where Yahuwah told Abraham, "Go and sacrifice to me, and I'm going to provide to you. I'll provide the sacrifice." And so he goes, he takes his son, because Yahuwah told him to go sacrifice your son. And he ties him up and he puts him on the altar, and Yahuwah says, "Stop, don't do it. I provided, sacrifice." And he goes and he sees that there's a lamb or a ram or something in the thicket, in the bush. And so that's also a prophetic picture of Yahusha.
Can we dive into that a
Go
little bit
ahead.
more?
Yep.
Because
Go ahead.
I don't want to do a disservice with this, because the world loves their holidays, right? They take so much joy and passion about it and everything. How much more we should when it comes to this is the introduction of our first holiday, the Passover. And let me stop here for a second. So this is literally an introduction of not only what Yahuwah had done for our people coming out of Egypt in a mighty way when he had killed the firstborn. We're going to wind up seeing it. Going to kill the firstborn of all the Egyptians, but it's also foreshadowing of Yahusha. So I the world loves to say, "Oh, put Christ back in Christmas," right? That's a huge slogan. Or Easter is all about the resurrection, even though Easter is literally the name Ishtar of another goddess, um, and so on and so forth. Or even try to take Halloween, and maybe try to dress up as biblical. Not everybody does this, but try to dress up as biblical characters, and yet it's still it's the holiday is completely of Hasatan. But we actually have holidays, holy days that perfectly represent the Messiah. Literally, we don't have to pretend that it represents him. We don't have to pretend that he made them. We don't have to make up stuff. It is literally in the scriptures from the mouth of Yahuwah. So I want to jump into Genesis 22 a little bit more because it really is a picture of the Messiah being that lamb. So let's jump to Genesis 22. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It said, "It happened after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, 'Abraham, Abraham.' He said, 'Here I am.' He said, 'Now take your son, your only son, whom you love, even Isaac, and go into the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I tell you of.'" Now it's very interesting the wording that Yahuwah uses. He says, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love." This is not the only son of Abram because he's already had Ishmael. So why would Yahuwah say, "Take your only son whom you love," when he has another son? Although he put him off, he still technically has another living son. Um, I would say this verse right here is also representative of Messiah. If I don't know if you find the verse where Messiah says, "This is my son, listen to him," in the New Testament, but this is a foreshadowing of the only begotten, beloved son of Yahuwah himself as Yahusha. And he's saying, "Go and bring him as an offering," which he is going to eventually bring him as offering because Abram, his name means father. And so when we look at this picture of Abram is representing a representation of Yahuwah, and Isaac is going to be a representation of Yahusha. It is the father going to give up his only begotten beloved son. So let's continue. Verse 3. Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took two of his young men with him and Isaac his son. He split the wood for the burnt offering and rose up and went to the place of God. Excuse me, to the place of which God had told him. That's interesting that there's two men because there was two at the cross as well. Verse 4. On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place far off. It's also interesting that there's a mentioning of a third day because we know that Yahusha rose on the third day. Verse 5. Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there and we will worship and come back to you." I always found this verse beautiful because Yahuwah had promised Abraham a long time ago, saying, "I will take your descendants and I will multiply them as the stars of the heaven, as the sand of the sea. The nations of the world will be blessed through you." And he was referring through the seed of Isaac. And so here Yahuwah is saying, he said, asking him to offer him up to kill him. Like, wait, what? And we're going to see what's going to happen because Yahuwah is not about human sacrifices, but it's a test as to for Abram. But Abram's response, he says, "I'm going to come. We're going to come back to you." And I think that's very important because he had such faith, saying, "We're going to go. We're going to worship. We're going to come back, even though I know that Yahuwah told me I'm supposed to sacrifice my son." Verse 6. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. In the same way, Yahusha had to carry his own cross so that Isaac had to carry the wood. Continuing in verse Verse 6, he took in his hand the fire and the knife. They both went together. Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, my father. He said, here I am, my son. He said, here's the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they both went together. They came to the place which God had told him of. Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood and bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar on the top of the wood. Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to kill his son. The angel of Yahuwah called to him out of the sky and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hands on the boy, neither do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing that you have not withheld your son, your only one, from me. And Abraham looked up and saw a single ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up as a burnt offering instead of his son. And in relation this with Passover and with Yahusha, there's this ram that is caught by his horns in a thicket, in the same way that Messiah had the crown of thorns about him, and the horns within the scriptures represent salvation. You know, to the horns on the altar are salvific picture, a picture of salvation. And this Genesis 22 is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful portrayal of what Yahusha was going to do in the future, what he did wind up doing, but he didn't step down from that cross. He went the full length. Yahuwah had him go the full way. He was that ram in the thicket. He was the lamb that was provided in the same way that Passover lamb. So when we bring it over in respect to Passover, and we're going to see in Exodus that the purpose of Passover was that the spirit of death would pass over the Israelites, will pass over our people, those who applied the blood of the lamb upon their doorposts. We're going to wind up reading. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but that is, it's, if we just sit and just meditate on that, it's in that moment that spirit of death passed over. In the same way, Yahuwah's wrath and that second death will pass over us when we put our trust and our salvation in Yahusha, who is our Savior. So anytime we go over the holidays, we should really be just basking it, because it's a celebration to us. It really is. At that time, it was very fearful, because, I mean, can you imagine? You've been enslaved for years. Okay, we can't forget the picture at the time in Exodus as well. Our people were enslaved and heavy bondage for years. And here comes Moses, which is also a depiction of a savior. Here comes Moses. Yes, take my people out. I'm going to take my people. I'm going to take my out. And you see all these plagues coming about, but yet you see the Pharaoh who's been your master for so many years. He's not budging. He's refusing to budge. And you've been hit with more and more persecution. What to do? Pharaoh said, you have to go get the straw now. You have to do this on your own. And he's making it worse. And you get to this point where you hear death is going to come. And if you do not obey these commands that Yahuwah is about to give, saying that you need to put this blood on your doorpost, you best believe that you will not be you will not be saved, right? You will have the death of the firstborn coming. So if we put ourselves in that picture and in that day, and it's just like this anticipation of salvation coming, but at the same time this spirit of death is coming, and I have to trust. It's the first time putting lamb, like, what? So we have to really just put ourselves in that and see the beauty of Yahusha. Like, now when we look back at it, we can say what great God we serve, that he did this to our people. He did this for our people. And then he sent himself. So Passover now for us is a celebration, and it's also still part of us can mourn a little bit because he's not yet returned again. But then there's also that aspect of he's coming. We're waiting, we're anticipating for that day for him to come. So just want to go through that a bit more.
Keep going. Keep going.
That's all I got.
That's
right
it.
now.
I like it. Keep going.
That's all I got.
Go,
He said, go. That's all I got.
What's next? What's next?
What's next?
No, I'm serious.
Preach it, girl.
Fired up. Go where the fire is.
But that's what I hate.
Go with where the fire is.
Preach it. Preach it.
Where the fire is. Go ahead. Continue. Where are we going next? Let's see.
Fan them flames. Fan them flames.
Exodus 12.